G'day, my name is Pierre Klerk, winemaker at Graham Beck in Robertson, South Africa. We're a specialist Cap Classique producer, and today we're going to talk a bit about rosé. Now at Graham Beck we produce three different styles of rosé Cap Classiques. Two of them are non-vintages and one is a vintage. Today I'm going to showcase only two of the three, and we're going to start off with the non-vintage Brut Rosé, which will be followed by the 2014 Vintage Rosé. And I'll explain a little bit what the difference is in our approach when we're making these two different styles of Cap Classique, as well as where it came from. So first of all, our Brut non-vintage is basically the sister to our normal Brut non-vintage, the white blend, except this is the rosé blend. So where we do for our normal Brut, we would showcase the most expressive Chardonnay portions with the more sort of neutral Pinot Noir portions, so that Chardonnay is the prevalent aromatic spectrum. And then with the rosé we do the exact opposite of that. Here we try to showcase Pinot Noir flavors more expressively, and therefore we go for the components of Pinot Noir which are really aromatic, and we would blend that typically with Chardonnay portions, which is a little bit more subdued or a little bit less expressive. Therefore Pinot Noir is really in the forefront here, so we get lots of red berries, blackberries, cherries, those kind of aromatics, and a little bit of floral flavors. And then the Chardonnay really is there on the mid palate to give a bit of vivacity and longevity and a good, clean, crisp finish. I'm going to open along the second, the Vintage Rosé, and hopefully, I'm not sure exactly how well we can distinguish the colors between the two, but I'll bring up our trusty white paper just now to see, and just to showcase that there is quite a immense difference between these two. I think you can see it quite clearly actually. But just for more dramatic effect, on my left would be the non-vintage rosé. You can see quite a much deeper, darker color, and on the right hand side our vintage rosé, much lighter in color. Now, there are many different ways to produce rosé. We prefer to follow the most natural, uninterfering way. We do buy in 25% of our annual production, and that happens to be some Pinot Noir, happens to include some Pinot Noir which travel quite a far way. We get grapes in from areas which can take up to 6 to 8 hours after being picked, and during that time an enzymatic reaction happens right underneath the skin of the grapes, where it starts releasing the color and aromatics into the flesh of the grapes, which means as soon as we do our whole bunch pressing, we immediately get a higher extract of color and therefore also a higher extract of aroma precursors. Now, many producers prefer to take that color away and then add the color at the end of the production of the Cap Classique, and therefore you have a larger amount of control at the end of the day of your hue. We, however, do not believe in using activated charcoal to get rid of the color, so we prefer to use our naturally more densely colored Pinot Noir juices or wines to blend for the specific non-vintage rosé and get this beautiful sort of silvery pink color. And we also believe that if you do use those harsh activated charcoals, you strip away a lot of aroma precursors, and therefore you lose a lot at the end of the day in your final blend and in your final Cap Classique. So, like I alluded to earlier, on the nose for our non-vintage Brut Rosé, you immediately pick up quite a strong concentration of red berry fruit, cherries, strawberries, a bit of pomegranate even now and again. Then you also get a hint of peach, which will naturally come from the Chardonnay. We aim normally to have a 50-50 split between Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, but some vintages, it does end up to be a little bit higher than 50% on the Pinot Noir side, and the specific batch that I'm tasting with you today actually is 54% Pinot Noir and 46% Chardonnay. So the Pinot Noir really is quite prevalent in the aromatic makeup. It's also quite exciting to drink rosé. It just captures the eye much more quickly than a normal white blend. So it really draws the attention, and it's quite exciting. It's a little bit, there's just an extra facet to the rosés than there is to the white blends. I personally do really prefer a well-balanced rosé, and actually I like to go towards the vintage styles. It gives beautiful complexity, but we'll get to that in a moment. I digress. So on the non-vintage, we leave the Cap Classique for a minimum of 15 months on the lease, therefore giving it an added complexity on the palate and a bit of a structure and well-rounded mid-palate. And therefore we don't need to chase a lot of sugar. A lot of people think rosé is sweet, and that's really not the case. And I think in today's times we really understand that it's not always the case. Here we're talking about a residual sugar of about 8 grams per liter. And it does find a perfect balance between the slightly tart acidity and a beautiful fresh finish at the end of your drink. Makes me want to kick off my shoes and put my feet in the pool, which I'll be doing just now after this. Then we're going to move over to our vintage rosé 2014. Now this is a Cap Classique that came about from a bit of a calculation error. In the early 2000s, our viticultural team told us that we can start the next morning with a small batch of Chardonnay, but after that it's only Pinot Noir, and they promised enough Chardonnay for a whole press. And the next morning, sure enough, the Chardonnay arrives, but after that continuously just Pinot Noir, Pinot Noir, Pinot Noir. And Cellar Master Peter Ferreira phoned the viticultural team saying, guys, where's the rest of our Chardonnays? We're going to lag behind here today. We'd really like to get this press full. And they said, yeah, we made a bit of a calculation error. There was only a little bit of Chardonnay left, and all the pickers are already in the Pinot Noir blocks, and we can't bring back more now just to pick a couple of extra cases of Chardonnay. So Peter, in a moment of brilliance, said, you know what, put the Pinot Noir on top of the Chardonnay. We'll keep it separate and we'll see how this turns out. We really love the flavors and the aromas coming out of the press in the juice trays. Kept it separate, fermented it separately, and after fermentation decided to bottle a little bit on its own, but on the X-nay, don't tell anybody. And then a couple of years later, he phoned our marketing team saying to them that they need to start designing a new label, because from now on we'll have a vintage rosé, because he loved the complexity and the flavors and the final product so much. So to this day, it's still our favorite mistake. We do it every year, and we aim to have a minimum amount of 85% Pinot Noir. Therefore we can use the grape variety's name Pinot Noir on the front label, if you can see it there, and therefore it's easy for us to talk about this as a showcase of Pinot Noir in a given vintage. This is the 2014 vintage, which is actually 86% Pinot Noir and 14% Chardonnay. Here again, like we've continuously talked about, we do not use any malolactic fermentation, and in neither of these two Cap Classiques we use any wood fermentation. So we try to bring out the beautiful freshness of the Pinot Noirs with a little bit of longevity due to the Chardonnay used in both of these. For the non-vintage, we use both cuvee fraction and press fraction, but for the vintage range we only use cuvee fraction, and therefore it's the most beautiful, lightest, most bright juice that we get out of the press, with the least amount of pressure exerted onto the grapes, and therefore naturally we have a much lower hue in the color. For the vintage rosé, like I said, we want to express the complexity of Pinot Noir, but also add extra complexity on the palate by leaving it on the lees for an extended period, which is a minimum of 4 years, and in fact the 2014 was close on 5 years on the lees. So on the nose you get this really bright blueberry, cherry, slightly earthy, spicy aromatics due to the Pinot Noir. A little bit of brioche, bready kind of yeast extract because it spends so much time on the lees. And as it develops, it really opens up, giving you much more spice and much more opulent black fruit. The palate is immensely broad, it's creamy, it's textural, it has a fantastic acidity which just ends the tasting off on a really fresh finish. And the bubbles are so fine and so delectable, it's very difficult to put this glass down for me personally without having a second sip, so here we go. So that's two of our rosés in a nutshell. Again, the non-vintage is quite easily and readily available, whereas the vintage is a little bit more exclusive and much lower volumes that we produce this in. So if you do happen to stumble upon it, easiest way to remember is the non-vintage has got a rectangular label, whereas the vintage has got a shield-shaped label. And it really is for just about 100 to 150 Rand extra on top of the non-vintage price. You get a lot of extra bang for your buck. So go out there, look for it, try and find it, and to celebrate what matters. And I'll take this with me because we're going to celebrate finding out that we're expecting a baby boy. So my wife and I will celebrate with this. Thank you. Cheers.